History remembers the gold of Mansa Musa, but that gold was bought with the blood and brilliance of a man the world forgot. Before the wealth, before the empire, there was a prince born into the dust, unable to walk, marked for death by a sorcerer king. This is the true story of the original Lion King. The year is 1217. In the small kingdom of Niani, a king sits on his throne, listening to the words of a hunter prophet. The prophecy is strange. If the king marries an ugly woman from a distant land, their son will become the greatest emperor Africa has ever seen. The king obeys. He marries Soumaoro Kanté, a woman mocked for her appearance. But when the child is born, the kingdom laughs. They call him Sundiata. He is not a warrior. He is a boy who cannot stand. For 7 years, Sundiata Keita crawls in the dirt, a prince who is an embarrassment to his royal blood. While the court whispers, a shadow is growing in the north. The Sosso Empire, led by the cruel sorcerer king Soumaoro Kanté, is devouring the Mandinka lands. Soumaoro is a man of myth and terror. Legends say he wears a cloak made of human skin and keeps the heads of 9 defeated kings in his palace. When Sundiata's father dies, the boy's cast out. His half-brother takes the throne, and Sundiata, along with his mother, is forced into a humiliating exile. But it is in the wilderness, away from the comfort of the palace, that the boy who crawled begins to find his strength. Exile was not a death sentence. It was a military academy. Sundiata and his mother traveled from kingdom to kingdom, seeking refuge. In the court of the king of Mima, the young prince finally stood. Legend says he used an iron rod to pull himself up, a rod that bent into the shape of a bow under his newfound strength. He grew into a formidable warrior. He learned the art of governance from the kings who sheltered him. He learned the terrain of West Africa, the forests, the rivers, and the secret paths of the Sahel. But while Sundiata grew, his homeland was burning. Soumaoro Kanté had finally invaded Niani. The Mandinka people were being crushed under the Sosso boot. They needed a leader. They sent messengers into the unknown, searching for the exiled prince. When they found him in Mima, they didn't see a crippled boy. They saw a lion. Sundiata did not return alone. He had spent his exile building alliances. He rode back to the Mandinka lands at the head of a multinational coalition, an army of exiles and kings united by a single goal: the destruction of the Sosso tyrant. The climax of this epic occurred in 1235, at the Battle of Kirina. This was not just a fight for land, it was a clash of civilizations. On one side stood Soumaoro, representing the old world of fragmented, predatory states and dark mysticism. On the other stood Sundiata, representing the future, a unified, organized, and prosperous Mali. The air was thick with the smell of iron and dust. Thousands of warriors clashed on the plains. Sundiata, ever the strategist, knew that Soumaoro's power relied on the fear he instilled. To break the empire, he had to break the man. In the heat of the battle, Sundiata took aim with a special arrow, tipped with the spur of a white cock, the only thing, according to legend, that could pierce the sorcerer king's magical defenses. The arrow grazed Soumaoro, and seeing his invincibility shattered, the tyrant fled into the mountains. The Sosso army collapsed. The lion had reclaimed his pride. Sundiata Keita did not just win a war, he invented a nation. At the Great Assembly of Kurukanfuga, he gathered the leaders of all the allied clans. He did not rule as a tyrant. Instead, he created the Gbara, one of the world's earliest forms of a representative parliament. He established the Charter of Manden, a set of oral laws that protected human rights, abolished slavery within the empire's borders, and guaranteed the safety of travelers. He transformed Mali into a hub of commerce. He recognized that the real power of the region lay in the control of the gold for salt trade. Sundiata moved the capital to Niani, turning it into a cosmopolitan center of agriculture and trade. He was the architect of the system that his descendant, Mansa Musa, would eventually use to dazzle the world. If Musa was the one who spent the gold, Sundiata was the one who built the mines, cleared the roads, and established the peace that allowed the gold to flow. Every great story has a mystery at its end. In 1255, Sundiata Keita died. Some say he drowned in the Sankarani River. Others say he was killed by a stray arrow during a festival. His death could have been the end of Mali. In many ancient societies, the death of a founder leads to immediate civil war. But Sundiata's work was too strong. He had built a system of laws and a council of elders that could survive without him. The empire entered a period of transition. It moved from a purely military state to a commercial and intellectual one. His successors began to embrace Islam, connecting Mali to the vast intellectual networks of the Middle East and North Africa. The Lion King's legacy was no longer just about conquest. It was about the institutional stability that would eventually produce the wealthiest era in human history. Sundiata Keita is the foundation upon which the glory of West Africa was built. To understand Mansa Musa, you must first understand the man who crawled so that Mali could run. For centuries, his story was kept alive not in books, but in the voices of the griots, the traditional historians and praise singers of West Africa. They remembered the Lion King when the rest of the world had forgotten. They knew that the story of Africa wasn't one of constant struggle, but of sophisticated governance and heroic resilience. Sundiata's life challenges the way we see leadership. It tells us that power does not always come from those who start the strongest, but from those who can endure exile, build bridges between people, and turn a prophecy into a reality. Today, the spirit of Sundiata lives on in the cultures of the Mandinka, the Mandinka, and the Gbara. He reminds us that even the most golden empire begins with a single, difficult step, taken by a boy who refused to stay in the dirt.